Sure, I would just urge people to remember that character of neighborhoods is always about the people that live in it. And so when we look at the existing sort of status quo in these neighborhoods, how expensive is the housing there? And what does that do to the character of the neighborhood? I grew up in what has been designated as one of these villages areas up on 42nd Avenue. And my dad still lives in that neighborhood. That neighborhood has not changed its zone. It hasn't built new housing in over 50 years. And I can tell you what that's done to the character of that neighborhood. That neighborhood's character has still changed tremendously over the course of my lifetime. When I was growing up in that neighborhood, there's other kids in that neighborhood because families could still reasonably afford one of those houses there.
Sure.
40 plus years later, that's no longer possible. All that's being sold there are multi-million-dollar houses, and there's no more kids growing up in that neighborhood. So cities grow. They evolve, they change. What kills neighborhoods is when we try and stifle that growth and pretend it's not happening. That's what kills character.
But it is quite often the neighborhoods and then the people that reside in them that will push back against these developments. In a lot of areas where we see these villages, we've seen that play out over the years in the Point Grey area, in Shaughnessy, where there's such a pushback to anything coming in that the neighborhood itself is what's preventing the neighborhood from changing. So how do we make inroads when it is so ingrained in many people that they don't want any changes to their neighborhood?
There's always going to be people that say no to any change, no matter how small. When there's a 20-story tall tower, people say, no, I'd support a 12-story one. When there's a 12-story one, they say, no, I'd support a 6-story one. Well, now we're proposing 4- and 6-story ones, and people are still opposing it. So there's always going to be somebody. So the key is to have a system that takes account of the interests, not just of the people who are angry enough to show up and say no, but to listen to the people who don't care or who will live in that housing in the future. We need a housing system that takes account, yes, of the people who live in a neighborhood, but also of the people who will live in a neighborhood, of their children. And I think we see this in a lot of these neighborhoods. I mean, West Point Grey is a great example. West Point Grey, there's people in that neighborhood I know, I've spoken to them, who've lived in that neighborhood for decades, but their children have moved out. They have no hope of being able to afford to live in that neighborhood. And now it's time for them to downsize, but there's no place for them to downsize. So providing a range of housing options in every neighborhood, and that includes apartments off arterial roads on the side streets. That's how we create a housing system that does work for everybody.